Sarah's my mother, Kyle. And you're my father.
Why wouldn't you say something?
Couldn't. Not without the risk of changing everything.
You're my son? You... Our son?
I'm glad you finally know. I have waited my whole life to tell you. For us to be together. Now we can win this. I know.
Pops. No, it's okay. He's with me. What are you doing?
John!
Pops!
John! Come on, breathe.
Why
John!
did you do that?
Because he's a killer!
Do you expect me to talk?
Hello and welcome to episode 166 of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm your host Becca, and as always joined by my fellow co-hosts Chris, Dave and Charlie of Movie Drone. How are you all?
Good evening, folks.
Oh, good evening. And actually, I feel kind of bad after all those times when Becca's always quoted Arnie as saying, "Nice to see you." He actually said it twice in this film.
Nice to see you.
He actually said it in exactly that same way as well.
He did. I laughed
So,
out loud.
apologies, Becca, for mocking you for saying that. He's never said that. No, he actually has said it in this film.
Say, when you said you felt bad, I immediately thought you meant.
Bad to the bone.
Yeah, which is no. So that's not what you meant. He did say nice to see you, but he didn't say nice to see you.
No, he said nice to see you like that.
Yeah.
And he said it twice as well, surprisingly.
Well,
it's almost like he rubbed it in. It's like, see, Becca did say it.
I'm just going to ram that point home.
So yes, good evening, everyone.
I've got a connected fun fact coming up later on.
Charlie, would you like to say good evening? I don't know if you did.
Good evening.
Hello.
No, I didn't.
I don't know.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, you introduced him. You know, you rolled it up the flagpole. He didn't salute it.
Oh.
I think Chris was too busy saluting his flagpole.
Yeah. He was feeling bad.
That's like an automatic 18 rating right there. Not safe for work, kids. Sorry.
Why? It's only potentially a euphemism, and we don't even know what for.
There
I
we
was
are.
talking about verbal wanking.
Yeah.
There we are. There's your rating.
What? Kevin Spacey?
Is it,
ranking, right.
Do you want an 18 rating, do you?
No, not particularly.
No. He's only got a 15. Or was it 12A?
I think this film was a 12A in the UK. But then I wouldn't know because I haven't got kids, so I never look. I haven't got a clue.
I don't, but I still pay attention.
And
I don't know why.
Netflix said it was a 12.
Right. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, because it was Emilia Clarke's first PG-13 film.
Why? Because she's normally really hardcore.
Yes. Being
only in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but that's just TV.
Mother of Dragons. No, I'm
Only considering there is a bit in this film where they have to get naked for plot points.
Yeah.
You don't actually see her naked.
You don't.
It's tasteful, but it's shadow. Tastefully.
Yeah, it's done tastefully.
Yes. And pertly, judging.
I've read the books, but I've only seen the first series of the TV show. Apart from that, I didn't watch it.
Yeah, but if you've seen the first series, you still see her naked.
I've seen it all.
I've seen everything.
Seen it all.
I'm pretty sure she got everything out in the first episode.
Seen all the dicks.
She did actually, but the last episode as well. She bookended the series with.
Spoiler alert.
The first
Make it at the
thing
start, make it at the end.
is a bookend of Clark boobs.
A bookend of
Emilia
nudity.
Clarke, not Jason Clarke.
No relation.
No relation. Well, he's probably got relations, but they're not related to each other.
No, they're not related to each other. No relation to each other. Obviously related to their families.
Apparently, she turned down the lead role in 50 Shades of Grey because of the nudity required.
Oh,
She did apparently after that first series or
just
so.
starting out her career at that time, though.
She was sparing with it. She was very.
I know they started using body doubles at some point. I think.
All right.
I could be wrong.
I'm just thinking what a dishonest wank that would have been. But there you go. To be fair, I've not watched Game of Thrones since about series 3, maybe 4. I started getting bored with it, which speaks to the fact I'm more of a world-building person than anything else. Once they sort of assembled the world and set the sort of chessboard, I was like, brilliant, and then I wasn't bothered. I don't care.
Didn't want to see the game being played out.
I don't really care who's on the throne at the end of this, if I'm honest.
Sean Bean survives it all.
Particularly
Makes it for a change.
I now know who did end up on the throne, and I was like, well, what an underwhelming load of old bollocks that would have been after 7 seasons.
Skip to the end. Oh.
Yeah, so, what are we covering tonight, Becca?
Yes, so tonight we are reviewing Terminator Spelling Mistake, aka Terminator Genisys, which contains no colon.
Or Genisys.
Genisys. Or as I spelled it earlier, Genisys. So I was like, how do I spell this name?
No, it's misspelling that. It's N-I.
Yeah, because it's obviously it's the name of the company. Yeah. So you think his son would have learnt, but no. Starring Lee Byung-hun, so I can't pronounce his name, Arnie, Amelia Clark, Courtney B. Vance, Jason Clark, no relation, Jai Courtney, J.K. Simmons, and Matt Smith, my favourite Doctor, well, apart from David Tennant. Score by Lorne Balfe, script by Lita Collar-Greenies and Patrick Lussier, directed by Alan Taylor, we've met him before in this series.
Yeah.
And it was 2015.
That went well. Yes.
Also, fun fact about him coming up at the end of the show.
I like the diverse spread of your favourite Doctors. One and the next one.
One and the next one. Yeah. And then the current one.
So
followed by
just
all the classic
Capaldi
ones.
you weren't fond of, and that's it. Okay.
Well, no, Christopher Eccleston, he was in the role for a very short time. But no, he did a good job. But yeah, so I feel like David Tennant is like my Doctor. And then, Matt Smith was also quite good, coming out of relative obscurity.
I didn't realise David Tennant actually had like a doctorship. I didn't know he actually was medically trained to be a doctor.
He was
no, they're just,
Is he a local GP, Becca?
He's actually my GP. Oh dear.
Did you actually book examinations, or did he just turn up to do them anyway?
I mean, his waiting list must be fucking forever. Really given all the acting gigs he has to do.
Yeah.
And all
the different time periods and planets.
So everybody will be timey.
I can see you 4 years ago.
I saw you 70 years ago. Oh.
Matt Smith is hardly in this, to be fair.
No, he's in it for I think it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
But he still managed to get in all the promotional materials with those shit pictures. Do you remember?
Oh God!
They were all screaming just off camera.
Yeah.
In a car park somewhere.
Over his shoulder.
Yeah. It looks like a car park or an airfield or something.
Yeah.
It's really lazy.
The promo shots weren't great.
Who thought of that, But there you go.
It was like, quick, we need something.
Yeah, quick to shove it in there.
Well, talking of Alan Taylor, this is a guy whose sort of star collapsed really fast because he got stuff off the basis of TV. So going back a bit, he did several episodes of stuff like The Sopranos. He was an HBO guy basically because he did Sex and the City as well. But The Sopranos he did some Mad Men, and then of course he comes along and does a lot of Game of Thrones, and or a handful of episodes of Game of Thrones, but some of the bigger ones, some of the big sort of spectacle ones, and of course that sort of made his name. And talking of The Sopranos, he's making the sort of prequel film now, The Many Saints of Newark, which is starring Gandolfini's son as like a younger version of him. So of course he was doing really well, and a new series would come along and he'd do the odd one like Boardwalk Empire. He did the Playboy Club, which didn't last very long, but I remember he did an early one of that. And then he gets Thor: The Dark World. Marvel come calling. He fits Marvel's profile because Marvel want people on the crest of stardom, not actual massive stars, because they're a little bit cheaper, certainly in this era of Marvel, when they weren't spending quite as much money. And of course, his two back-to-back projects, Thor: The Dark World, commonly thought of as one of the worst, if not the worst, Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and then this, which is commonly thought of as one of the worst, if not the worst, Terminator films. And he hasn't touched a big screen film since.
No, you think he's probably sort of going back to TV then? Just sort of...
Yeah, well, he did. I am looking for help here. He did do an episode of Game of Thrones after this. Then he did a pilot for a TV show, and an episode of another TV show. And then the last two things that are showing, one's pre-production, one's post-production. The Many Saints of Newark, which is the Sopranos film, basically, and The Swarm, a TV series. All I can picture is the Michael Caine film then. Have you ever seen The Swarm?
Yeah, with the bees.
With bees. It's fucking hilarious, but it's not meant to be. The Swarm. Yeah, it's worth seeing The Swarm. I'm just going to see if it's about the same thing. I wonder if it's like a TV series remake of it.
Okay.
No, ecological thriller about the delicate interconnectedness between mankind and Earth.
Right.
That could be about killer
bees then.
That doesn't sound like killer bees to me.
Anything in the mouth to shoot bees at you?
So yeah, at the point where he was doing all this, he was still kind of in his 40s. Do you know what I mean? He's in his 50s now, and it was like, I don't know. It feels like a little bit of his dalliance with Hollywood is probably over now. But we'll see. Depends what he makes from going forward. People do get multiple chances sometimes. But when the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time of recording is 23 films, and you are tending to be ranked 23rd out of those, not even you did one of the middling ones or one of the weaker ones. You did what people consider the worst. Whether it is or not is obviously a matter of opinion. But I'm just talking about where general opinion is. It's certainly in the bottom 3 for a lot of people. And then you go and do this. It's quite difficult to come back from that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, do you think it's honestly like his fault? Like, do you think he's actually a bad director or just made poor decisions, like poor choices to go for?
It's been a long time since I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched The Dark World, so I don't remember whether I thought that was well or badly directed in my uneducated opinion.
No, I think Game of Thrones has shown that he's not a bad director.
Yeah.
Certainly stuff he's done. I think what as well is with both of these films, especially with Marvel, and then here where you've got Anna Perno with Megan Ellison and her brother David who owns Skydance. There must be a lot of micromanaging there as well.
Yeah.
We've heard of past we've seen Marvel and how it takes people who have supposedly strong personal individual styles and visions and then
beat it out of them.
Yeah.
Or get rid of them. I mean, because Thor: The Dark World was meant to be a Patty Jenkins project.
Well, yeah, like Edgar Wright and Ant-Man.
That dropped. Edgar Wright and Ant-Man. There are others. I can't always remember them, actually. They do slip my mind, but there's been a few.
Excuse me.
They're the two I can remember. And funnily enough, there are a lot of things in the end result of Ant-Man that people look at and say, oh, that's got to be Edgar Wright. And I'm actually reading a lot of it wasn't. The Luis, like talking head stuff, is not an Edgar Wright thing, which amazes me. It's actually a Peyton Reed thing. I don't know if we knew that when we recorded the Ant-Man episode, but you can't unfortunately read or learn everything. I don't know on this film. I certainly didn't watch it with an idea that it was sloppy or incompetent in terms of shot making or anything like that. I didn't think any of it was wildly standout in shot making either. I don't remember seeing anything in the film where I thought, oh, that's impressive, or I really like that shot, or that looks good.
No, it's a product.
But it's product and it's okay in terms of the way it's made. The problems with this seem to lie more at a script level.
Yeah.
Well, two things really. It's a script level, but it's also where we are in a series that has outlived its natural lifespan.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up the writers now to see what they've done. Funnily enough, one of them, Laeta Kalogridis, she wrote Alita Battle Angel as well. So she's obviously sort of from the Cameron sort of stable. Shutter Island, which wasn't at all bad, and then quite a lot of TV. Patrick Lussier, the other guy, wrote
horror stuff.
I know that name.
Yeah.
Let me have a look. He wrote 3 Dracula films. Oh no, he wrote Dracula 2001 or Dracula 2000, I think, if you're in the United States. Or maybe it was 2001 there, because I am on IMDb. 2 video games based on it. Drive Angry, the Nicolas Cage film.
Oh no.
Not one of the better because Nicolas Cage occasionally does a really great film. That wasn't one of them. Terminator Genisys, and then the last thing after that is something called Trick, which does look like a horror film. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was Wes Craven's editor.
Yes, I noticed he's got more editing credits than anything else, and you've got. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got Scream 2. Yeah, you've got 3 of the Scream films, the first 3. Red Eye, which obviously is a Wes Craven film as well.
Cursed. And
he did
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah, New Nightmare.
Yeah.
And the Highlander TV series. We'll have to do the Highlander films one day just for the fucking rant Highlander 2 will give us. I thought I was impressed then for a minute until I realised I'd misread it. It's not Magnum PI, it's Mom PI.
Oh.
60
So much for that
minutes into the guy. So, yeah, they're writers with... he's got the weaker writing credits, but there's nothing really, really, like, breakingly awful in any of that, to be honest with you. And to be fair, it's collaborative, isn't it? You don't know who ends up doing what.
Yeah, to be honest, when you just... I mean, I'm looking at the minute on the sidebar on Wikipedia, and when you look down, I mean, yeah, you've got the 2 writers, and then you've got kind of Jai Courtney, and then Lorne Balfe, and then it's kind of, it seems very much kind of, without being rude, there's not top tier talent here.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
Arnie.
Well, Arnie at this point.
In 2015? I mean, you'd still have to pay him a fair bit, don't get me wrong, but if you pay him, he'll turn up. Old,
not obsolete.
Which he says many times.
Yeah, and really overemphasizes it. Like, they're
old.
Old? No, not.
Has a 5-minute pause.
Yeah, like 10-minute pause.
It's a little bit like, I remember about 20 odd years ago when my grandmother was still alive. She left me a voicemail, like an answer phone message, and she clearly never used an answer phone message before, and it was like that. Hello, it's Nan, right? That's how he delivers it. So yeah, the writers are both on as executive producers, which is a meaningless term in if you're not George Lucas. The 2 producers are Dana Goldberg and David Ellison. Yeah. So cinematographer. When we talk about filmmaking, I always need to go and look at the cinematographer as well, because they have so much to do with how shot. I think one of the things we've always said is cinematography is always confused with pretty. And it is actually about effectiveness of shot making as well.
And camera movements as well.
Yeah, Kramer, Morgenthau, lens choices, all that sort of thing. He did Creed 2, Terminator Genisys. He did Chef, which I love, that Jon Favreau film.
That's such a good film, but don't, for heaven's sake, don't watch it when you're hungry, seriously. It'll just make you eat all the food. Yeah. But it's really good, though. It makes you have so much passion for life.
Lots and lots of TV and stuff like that, and TV films and so on. Nothing wrong with any of that, but like, we're not looking. I'm not flipping over to it, and he's directed this Michael Bay film and that Roland Emmerich film. You know what I mean? He hasn't done anything massive. So, yeah, I think. Do we know what the budget for this film is?
Yeah.
No, it's a range. It's given.
Not one of my fun facts, unfortunately.
155 to 158. This is the lowest budget since the second one. So, of the 3 sequels preceding Dark Fate, this is the lowest budget. So, yeah.
Interesting. It does have Michael Bay's editor, Roger Barton.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because he at least did everything up to the last Transformers Michael Bay did.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it as well.
The 80s Speed Racer.
Yeah, he also did Revenge of the Sith as well.
Yeah. Pearl Harbor. Yeah. Okay. Gone in 60 Seconds. World War Z. Okay.
Titanic. Associate editor.
Editor. Co-editor. Junior editor at that stage, probably.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so opening thoughts, folks. Charlie, do you want to go first on the basis that I saw you tweet today, and I saw several of your tweets, and I agreed with quite a few of them, and I thought if I go first, I'll end up just stealing them all. So can you...
Okay. Today was literally the first time I had ever seen the film, and I was not looking forward to it at all. But to be honest, I mean, it's kind of like the thing we were talking about earlier when you were talking about Michael Connor and View to a Kill, where it's not necessarily that good a film. It's not a good film, and you can see the massive kind of issues and flaws it has, but it's a film that I can enjoy for different reasons. I mean, you can enjoy it because it is very, very ridiculous, and it's tonally confused, and so it does remind me sometimes as like a Bond film, because there's weird tonal shifts that don't work. The acting isn't particularly good, not just straight because of acting, but also because you've got several actors that are trying to follow on from previous actors, that like Linda Hamilton, like Michael Biehn, that have already been, that are the kind of the cornerstones of the original film. So you've got that, and you've got their choices of whether to mimic or whether to just go with it or be like nothing with it. And I think the worst thing about the film, apart from the slack writing, is the casting. I think it's quite severely miscast, and I think kind of Emilia Clarke, I think she does the best with what she's got, and she's given some severely terrible lines. Like, again, this bloody series with its propensity for repeating lines.
Like, come with me if you want to live, kind of like...
Yeah, that's where she says, come with me if you want to live. And then she says, now, soldier, again.
It's like, on your feet, soldier.
Exactly.
Yeah, on your feet, soldier, yeah, exactly.
And again, because this was revealed in the trailer as a big kind of shock thing. So you've already seen it previously, so you know it's coming, and it still manages to seem worse. But I mean, I liked her. I thought she felt more suitable as the film kind of went on. But Courtney just is a blank slate, and it remains that way, and is almost more Terminator-like than any of the other Terminators. And there's nothing in him absolutely that conjures any idea of not just Michael Biehn, but Carl Reese as a character that we know him. And Jason Clarke is he just, I don't know if I want to say he's not got the right face, but you look at him and he's not John Connor. He's a middle manager at a firm of accountants. Yeah, he looks someone that is going to turn out to be the villain. He's
got a sort of look to him, hasn't he?
He's got that kind of face and demeanour.
They've
and again, because this was bloody revealed in the trailer again, wasn't it?
He could be a Bond villain, as you say.
So yeah, and I think the person that kind of gets away with the best of it is Arnie, probably, despite being given all the kind of cheesy jokes and stuff. But he manages to pull it off in a way that I didn't think he did in Dark Fate. And again, this film, because this one, and I'll be honest, I'll put my hand up, I like Thor: The Dark World as well, but it has the similar kind of thing that characterizes a lot of the Dark World. Again, weird tonal shifts, but also kind of there's a lot of cheesy lines and interplay and humor and stuff like that. And while a lot of it kind of falls flat, there is some of it that kind of works, and it doesn't. Because of that, it doesn't feel as kind of as po-faced as a lot of the Terminator films have tried to have come across as, and it doesn't feel as ridiculous as the stupid glasses or things in or talk to the hand in Terminator 3, and it's quite, and I guess the central idea feels quite good, because it kind of feels good to kind of be kept on your toes a bit and not just do the same thing over and over. Although it does that as well, so it tries to have its cake and eat it. But I think out of any of it, it still has a bit of heart to it, or it still tries to have heart to it. And there's little things like the J.K. Simmons role I thought was quite fun, and just little bits where it feels just like there's something there behind it, and it's like when you watch Salvation, and that's just kind of, there's nothing there at all. There's no kind of heart or soul behind it. There's nothing there. And I think for all the flaws that this film has, there's still something behind that, which made me enjoy it to the point where I would probably say I enjoy it the most after the first two films.
Okay.
Someone else can go now.
Yeah, go on then. I'll only disagree on a couple of things. Well, I'll disagree on the general ranking of it, but I think what you said in general, there's a lot to. I'll disagree on one thing. I thought Arnie was way more natural with the humour in Dark Fate. I thought it suited him, and in fact, because I'd already seen Genisys when I saw Dark Fate. When I sort of got the hint it was going to be a bit lighter in places, I was a bit concerned. But it's much more natural because that version of the Terminator has broken his programming and having years living as himself. So it was much more Arnold playing closer to Arnold than here, where, old not obsolete was done to death. I mean, you had the smile, and it was more appropriate in timing than when they tried to do it in T2 and things like that. Where it suffered at the time was it was stepping back inside the 1984 film. And I think if you're going to do that, you are immediately referencing really great stuff, and you've got to do something really great. I think I'd broadly agree that she grows into the role through the film, but I have to say it was when she first opened that door and shouted, "Come with me if you want to live." It sounded like Linda Hamilton. Whether she does as the film goes on, I'm less sure, but she sounded like her there, definitely. I think the other thing was it was how spectacularly dumb it was in places on first viewing. So I kept referencing that line, which is not said as a complete sentence. It isn't. But it is that reference to getting to the future as soon as possible, which is just dumb. If you're going to a fixed point in the future, it doesn't matter whether you go now or 5 minutes before it. So things like that. And I got a little bit offended by it, in as much as you've referenced one of the smartest, most superior sci-fis we've ever had, with all that sort of genre bending it did. And within the same time frame as the night of that film, we've got to get to the future as soon as possible. And we'll get into it as we go scene to scene, because so much of it is just like, oh, that's really stupid. But where it really does benefit is the time frame, or the time scale in which we're doing all these reviews, because we're doing it a week after Salvation. When I went to see this at the cinema, I hadn't seen Salvation for 6 years, and I just remember that number one target trying to lure in number two target thing, which I made fun of last week. But I remember it being a reasonably sort of straight film. Well, actually, having watched it last week, it is a straight film. It's got nothing to it. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not got any horror. The action's not very good, and the characters are just their character names plus a few little ticks you'll recognise. You throw in the T-800. 11 or 14 years before it's due to roll off the production line, depending on timeline. And that this at least had a sort of sense of energy, a sense of fun. There was no energy in Salvation. It really shocked me. It just felt so inert. So I might be able to sort of reverse the position of those two films, in that I think Genisys is not a very good film at all. As we go through it, I'm going to pick a lot of flaws with it. I think it might just be a little bit better than Salvation, which is the ultimate damning on Salvation, because Salvation has a stronger cast overall. Charlie's right on miscasting. I think really, I mean Jason Clarke, and I mean Jai Courtney. Jai Courtney he's one of those actors that is just being damned by his choices as much as anything else, because he's really fun, like Suicide Squad, but he just can't pick a script to save his life. But on paper, it's a bit like Ryan Reynolds pre-Deadpool, as I've said before, that he did all the things you would say they're not bad career choices. DC are going to start a universe to do like Marvels. So DC have got as many great characters. That'll be brilliant. They're going to start with not like the absolute A-list like Superman. They're going to start with Green Lantern. And the guy who's done it's done a couple of Bond films. That should be all right, shouldn't it? And it wasn't. And then he went and did like a Disney animation, and it was like their worst one. Then he went and did R.I.P.D., which was very much like, imagine we want to bring back something with a bit of the soul of...
basically Men in Black, wasn't it?
Men in Black. And it's like, who's going to be alongside me? Academy Award winner, Jeff Bridges. And it was shit. So Jai Courtney's the same to a degree. You know, it's not all about him, but there's no doubt there's nothing of Michael Biehn about this guy at all. He's just like eager soldier, and that's about it. And we never go any further. Jason Clarke, I'm starting to get a problem with as we go by. It's my only doubt about Matt Reeves's casting choices for Batman, because I would trust that director generally, but he stuck Jason Clarke at the center of Dawn. I think it was Dawn, wasn't it? No, yeah, it was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And the guy just has no chemistry with anyone, and no screen presence, no charisma, no nothing. But the only thing he's got going for him in all of those things is, whereas like a Sam Worthington plays dumb, Jason Clarke doesn't play dumb. Like I'm convinced there's like a real person in there engaging in the scene and stuff, but I just don't see him in this role at all. You know, remember we had a quick look at John Connor in T2 at the start. It wasn't a middle manager at a accountancy firm in some provincial town. That's how he comes across. So I think that's enough for me for now. It's a little bit better than I was expecting. It's not very good though.
I think that was my issue, is that I had previously seen Planet of the Apes, and I thought Clarke was relatively decent in that, but he was very much designed.
He's not bad. I will say that he's not a bad actor. He's okay in the scenes, but I just find him a bit.
But the character that he played, in that film, was supposed to be the opposite to the kind of person John Connor is. Yeah. He's supposed to be someone that is supposed to show the other side of humanity that isn't kind of like the warmongering kind of I'm going to kill everyone kind of thing.
Yeah, he was in that war film recently with Keira Knightley and is it Alexander Skarsgård? And I'm blanking on its name. It was earlier this year. I reviewed it on Set the Tape. It's not very good. It's not a very good film, but he moves into this house as allied forces with Keira Knightley, his wife, and they dispossess Germans of like their houses, rich Germans, and live in them. But the German is still there, and he has an affair with Keira Knightley. And I don't mean this as like making fun of the guy in any way at all. I genuinely don't. But like as a cuckolded husband, that works. He kind of works in that kind of role. I don't see him as the savior of humanity somehow. But there you go. Becca or Chris? Don't mind.
Becca,
Chris.
you go. No, Becca, you
We're
go.
too polite. Ladies first. No. No, I think Charlie and David put together a very succinct argument for the pros and cons of this film. I really did struggle. You guys have pretty much covered it already, so I'm not really going to add very much. But just so I preferred it to Salvation. Bizarrely, it kind of felt more of a Terminator movie. It does very wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and it's quite interesting how we've got two of the same characters from different timelines meeting up face to face. That was a bit of I remember seeing that in the trailers and being like, what? But yeah, I just despite the amazing appearance of Lee Byung-hun, definitely as he's fully for me like the number 2 Terminator. I think Robert Patrick is firmly number 1. Obviously, Arnie is We Forever Eternal. But to have a really amazing South Korean actor such as Lee Byung-hun, definitely. Even though he's on screen for like 20 minutes, still utterly terrifying in the role.
20 minutes is generous.
But this is it's probably like 10 or something like that. But it's really great. They kind of went with South Korean artists of such stature as well. More please is all I can say. But yeah, I just everything about this I really do struggle. It's so bland. It is quite longer than it need to be. I would argue Arnie is quite good. He's quite humorous. But yeah, I would agree with you, Charlie, about sort of repetition of lines and just the general messiness of it as well. It's better than the previous film, but it's still one of the weakest of the series. And I would kind of argue that you would go like 1, 2, and then Dark Fate, and just skip everything in between. And even Matt Smith sadly couldn't save it for me. But yeah, Chris.
Well, Matt Smith's barely in the thing, isn't he? Really, he just sort of.
That's why he couldn't save it.
He played Doctor. Bear in mind, Becca said Christopher Eccleston saved Thor: The Dark World. I
just couldn't save it here. I'm sorry.
if you played the Doctor once, you could come onto screen, look the wrong way, fart and shit yourself,
Have a
and she'll
dodgy
still
tag.
go, saved the film, that did.
I think for me, definitely it was just more his kind of profile just raised it for me a little bit. I do, like whatever he's in, he does kind of bring a certain gravitas to it.
Who, Matt Smith?
But yeah, no.
Oh, right, sorry.
I don't know who we're talking about now.
No, we're going backtracking. But Matt Smith's hardly in it. Despite appearing in a lot of the promo material, he's hardly in it. He's in it for like hardly in it, for a matter of minutes. And yeah, he just sadly couldn't save it. But still, I've got a fun fact about him coming up later on.
That's fun, folks.
Matt Smith.
That's fun, not fab, but fun.
Will it be as fun as our sitcom of the week?
Which is
this week. (1986 to 1991's Bread).
That's an iconic theme
Starring
tune.
Gene Boat, Ronald Forfar, Peter Howitt, Victor Maguire, Jonathan Morris, Ginny Coleman, and Nick Conway.
Later in that.
What's others? Sorry?
Oh, I can't remember his name. Good Night, Sweetheart.
Yeah, he was like his mate Ron or whatever. Yeah.
Did it only run for 5 years? It felt longer than that.
I think it was six series, and they did a series every year, so it was like 6 series or something like that. Or it says 7 series here. They can't have done 2. They might have done 2 in the first year or something. I don't know. I thought they did 4 with the original cast and 2 with like a couple of changes. It's set in Liverpool, and it's about a load of people who are on like. I used to live in Liverpool, and of course I had people visit me, like family and that, because I was at university there and stuff. And I know I went on the tour, the Beatles tour, like 3 times.
Wow!
Because my parents were divorced, so they visited me separately and wanted to do it. And like a few years later, I went up there with like my then wife, and she wanted to do it. So I've been on the tour a few times. So we were driving around, and Bread got mentioned, and the guy was just seething at the thought of it. It's not very popular in Liverpool because it kind of just paints them as fucking benefit scroungers who are just everything cash in hand, like working really hard to not have to work, sort of thing. So that's where it comes from. But it's not great. It's not. I picked that as like not for one of the better films. One of the weakest sitcoms we've done so far.
Oh, I'm gonna miss having a retro TV show of the week.
But if you join us for Planet of the Apes, we'll be doing something else.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah, Brad did start Peter Howitt as Jimmy Boswell, who ended up like directing a bunch of stuff. He did Sliding Doors.
Don't say what.
Did, yes.
We're going to go on 6 degrees of separation.
It will be a little bit like that, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Melanie Hill, who played the second Avalon, was one of Sean Bean's 5 or 6 wives.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
The first one died.
The first Avalon died recently. She didn't die during the life of the show. She died like years afterwards. She died in 2010. She had a heart complaint. She died like I think she was in her mid-50s. Yeah. Most of the rest of the cast are still alive. Apparently, they were in talks to bring it back a couple of years ago.
Oh dear, really?
Like Christ. I do know that street where it is, though. I do know that street where it is. But yeah, no, I loved Liverpool, but they really don't like the show. They don't have a great view of it generally. I'm led to believe. But if you're Scouse and love Bread, write to us at expectustotalk@gmail.com. Chris, what do you think of Terminator?
I just always remembered like the title with the big hen with the money.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
put cash
on the kitchen table.
That's quite pressured, isn't it? Having to put cash in every fucking day.
Yeah, so it was a big thing, wasn't it? It sort of like got around or put in whatever money they managed to get that day and sort of like put it in the pot. Right. But yeah, Terminator Genisys. I still don't know why there's a Y.
Genisys.
Why that?
Well,
why is the Y the Y?
Why is the Y?
It's the product, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
but
company name.
Genisys, as in system. SYS being the computer abbreviation for system.
Yeah.
Is that why?
That's why. Yep.
Yeah, it still sounds rubbish. But yeah,
Why?
I'm kind of going in a similar sort of route as Charlie, even though when I first watched this film, I flatly enjoyed it. And I came out to a response that everyone just fucking hated it. So I've come to say, so over the years, I kind of accept the fact that, yeah, it is a bit crap. There's no getting around it. It is a bonkers idea. But for some reason, I always just enjoy my time with it. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just it's just flat out bonkers that just get me through it. Maybe I just switch my brain off and just go with it. Just go fuck it. I don't care. Maybe it's actually completely well paced and and the action's like quite well done and things like that. But yeah, I always enjoy my time with it, even though by the time you get to the end, it gets a little bit like, okay, where the fuck are you going? Jason Clarke, he's John Connor, Terminator. You're reaching a bit there. But other than that, it is. I think we'll reference it off air. Like, it's basically Die Another Day. It's that kind of element of, well, it's fucking crap and it's dumb as fuck, but at least you're not bored. Whereas last week, pretty much bored by everything in that film. So you kind of, there is something to it when you have to sit through.
If you watch them 6 years apart, I think you'd say this was the weaker film. But when you watch them a week apart and you realise how much we were struggling to get a show out last week, you're like, I'm sorry, I can't praise that over this. Yeah.
At least you got shit to talk about, you know what I mean?
There's shit to talk about, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and as I said, it's never boring. There is never a dull moment, which is something, to be fair. When you are making a film, to make it not boring, I know I'm damning with faint praise here, but when a film isn't boring,
not dull.
Yeah, that is something. That's
high praise indeed.
You are doing something right, even though there isn't much you're doing, but there is something there. So yeah, Terminator Genisys it's mad as fuck, but yeah, I enjoy it.
With that, shall we discuss this film? Well, actually, before we discuss this film, I'd like to produce another occasional series we might return back to, Becca Legend Watch, right?
Oh, Legend Watch, okay, yes.
Because we've established this is a fucking term Becca massively uses. Anybody who's ever achieved anything beyond standing upright.
We're all legends, it's fine.
Yeah. She referred to the footballer Clive Wilson as a legend on somebody's thread.
It made me laugh.
Somebody met him and they were like, "You're lucky to meet such a legend."
A sporting legend.
Yes. So
I think in terms of those local those teams that he's played for, he may be seen as a legend, despite not playing for England. And it was obviously one of his heroes, so I figured,
It's when you suggested, Matt Smith single-handedly saved this film that came
saved this movie.
When you like people,
Matt Smith would save this movie.
You have got a lot of love to give. There's no doubt, because when you like someone they're really liked.
Well, to be fair, Dave,
Clive Wilson.
To be fair, Dave, Matt Smith's performance was that strong that if you Google Skynet into Wikipedia, you get a picture of Matt Smith. In this film.
Into Wikipedia. Yes, because he's the physical manifestation of it.
He is, yeah. He is the embodiment of Skynet.
Yeah.
So, he is Skynet. Or the T-5000, which we never got to find out what that was, but...
No,
that was very underwhelming, but that's why, well, for me, he didn't save this film. Not even Matt Smith or Arnie could save this film.
Yeah. I've got to go and find a clip of someone going, "You're a fucking legend." So I can make like a little jingle for Becca's Legend Watch.
Legend alert.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we discuss this film sequentially, folks?
Well, which sequence are you on about? There are many wibbly wobbly sequences. This timeline is all over the place.
This timeline is all over the place. It starts with a narration from Kyle, doesn't it?
Yes.
With what looks like just before Judgment Day. It's worth saying Judgment Day's back in 1997 now. This is not T3 and 4 timeline.
Oh.
This is the T2 timeline. Or it isn't, because Dark Fate retcons it, but it starts with the T2 timeline, effectively. That it all happened in 97 and the war ended in 2029.
Yeah, so it's going over like what it's picking up from Terminator 2.
Yeah, pretty much. It's we're getting him narrating over scenes of people in nice fields and lakes and all that kind of shit, and then you actually see all the sort of bombs go off, which is never not a good effect. That always looks quite nice. And then we basically have them.
I quite like the idea of actually sort of like looking from a plane and seeing like a missile fly. Yeah. I
was saying there weren't many great shots in this film. Whilst I wouldn't go as far as saying that was a great shot, that was a memorable shot. Yeah.
I would argue that this film still looks good. It's just in terms of like plot and script, it kind of falls down. But I think that the look of this film is still is very pretty. Well, I say very pretty. It looks very handsome, shall we say? Has a kind of glossy sheen about it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So we go to 2029, and there's just this is basically where they're going to get in to get to the time displacement unit.
Yeah.
So this is the battle that gets them to the point where they can send John back. Not John back, Kyle back, sorry. And John is they keep referencing how do you know everything and all the rest of it. And I think they're having a bit of a go at like banter between the two of them, that they're old friends and stuff. It doesn't really quite work, but there you go. So there's a fight to get in there effectively, and at the same time we see obliquely the T-800 sort of crouching down to be sent back, which I don't really understand, that he gets sent back nice and calmly on the floor, and when the humans get sent back, they're like thrown about all over the place. But there you go.
Yeah, it seems that this John Connor seems to know what's going on exactly, as in like he knows exactly when it's happening. But how would anyone know that other than like at some point they sent a Terminator? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, basically pillow talk after Kyle, and he must have told quite a lot.
Yeah.
In the first one, with lots of detail.
Mid intercourse, and then.
Oh, hang on! I meant to say it's June 7th, right? 4 p.m. These are the coordinates. Sorry, I didn't have paper, Andy. I've just written it on your tits. Get them off the mirror later, and just sort of turn it round in your mind. And yeah, he's got a hell of a lot of detail here. This is just over the titles, though, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
While they're getting ready to do all this, we're just getting directed by, music by, and all that sort of stuff.
It's looking like a video game that I kind of want to play.
I don't know. Was there a video game of this? I don't know.
Probably,
I don't know.
But it has such a retro kind of thing. It's like someone sort of created like a Terminator video game. You think actually, yeah, that was pretty cool. I'd play that. But the problem is, it looks like a video game.
Right. It does the thing it does. I don't like of like the general sort of rounding up his troops and kind of trying to rally them and all that shit. Lots of speech making. I don't like that so much. But he asks for volunteers to go back, and of course, loads of them volunteer for certain death, including Kyle. Is that why should I send you? I'd die for Sarah Connor.
They all would.
I know that's weird. She's your mum and shit, but like. I've knocked one out to her a few times.
It's like, why is he challenging him on it? It's like, okay, fair enough.
What? Don't go to. What if he suddenly goes? Actually, you're right. Forget it. Actually, that's a real shit idea. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Send that woman.
Or it goes like, who volunteers, and like loads of people volunteer, and like he doesn't.
The other thing is when they changed the timeline. Like, I don't know. There's something about, like, it has to be a specific sperm and a specific egg, doesn't it? Otherwise, it's a different child.
Yeah.
Charlie's got 2 children. They're not identical to each other, are they? They're not the same. They're not like Mark II. It's like, so, yeah. It doesn't seem to matter with this Carl Reese. They can do it any time in any era. It's fine. John Connor will. I mean, I don't know. He's sort of sent back. As they are activating it, and he's in the sort of time stream. He sees Matt Smith step out, look the wrong way, shit himself, and Becca call him a legend.
I didn't mean it quite like that.
But Matt Smith arrives to save the film, folks. Relax, he's got this.
It doesn't even save the film for me. I'm
5
shocked.
minutes.
It doesn't even do it.
Basically, he just grabs sort of Jason Clarke's head and then the top one. And
you thought this was...
Not the other one.
No, not his knob.
We might have two lurking next door to each other.
You think John Connor's got two dicks? Do you think that's...
Yes, we're fighting timelines, you know.
Do you think that's why they elected him leader? It's like, why should it be you?
Well, it's revealed later on in the film that he's actually more, not man, not machine.
Yeah.
Just
And
more.
You think he used that to fashion a second penis?
Maybe. Who knows?
Fair enough.
Not really, of course. I'm just joking.
Becca's hot take.
Only kidding, of course.
So then we get the general set back to 1984 thing, don't we? Oh, don't we? He sees the younger version of himself talking in a mirror or something, doesn't he? The moment this happens, he gets explained later.
Yes, because of the like new memories now.
Yeah.
So things happen. He sees Sarah Connor sort of.
He now remembers pre-war.
Mm.
So, including Sarah of Emilia Clarke's age. And the events are now 2017. But there you go. So back to 1984, Los Angeles and the Griffith Park Observatory and all that. They've reshot this with the punks.
Yes. Is the guy in the truck, is that still the same guy?
I think that's the same guy.
It is the same guy. That's my fun fact.
I don't know. Let's find out later in the show, Chris.
We've already had it, so yeah.
Because I will admit, one of the things I was impressed by was just how like exactly it looked like Terminator. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much, because it came up and thought, oh, it's just like Terminator.
Yeah, well, that's the same guy.
I thought that was to its detriment, though, because that guy particularly doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
What the hell? And he didn't sound. He said it, but he didn't sound anything like he did in the original film.
They've redubbed him.
Yeah, but and also the punks were rubbish.
The punks were shit.
One of them looked like Johnny Knoxville.
No, it looks like they've just gone into like the local McDonald's and grabbed three lads and then just put on this wig and just stand there. They don't look like they've ever acted before. Maybe they haven't. I don't know. But yeah, just as Arnie walks over to 1984, Arnie walks over to them kind of nude with his cock unconfirmed. I didn't notice. And he goes to attack them, but suddenly Arnold Schwarzenegger, in a middle age kind of state, appears and they have a fight.
Yeah. And we see someone like getting in position with a big, massive fuck off sniper gun. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, we find out later that Sarah Connor, in not very long time, that's Sarah Connor, sat ready to sort of shoot the original Terminator from the first film.
We also see a bit of Terminator arthritis.
Yeah, a bit like we do. Yeah, he has some problems with his hands. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, iconic moment.
Likes his iconic. That's another one, isn't it? Becca's iconic alert. Yes.
Well, there's so many sort of iconic moves that he does.
I suppose
Terminator.
the thumbs up, yeah, but it's not from this film that's iconic. But yeah, I suppose
it's the same as like, I don't know,
might be meaning to
a villainous Terminator kind of being melted down in a vat of molten steel or something, and that hand sort of like slowly
absolutely
dissolving into the goo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for the sort of Griffith Park Observatory part, which I think I've got the name wrong of every week until this week. And obviously Michael Biehn arrives. God, Freudian slip. I wish it was Michael Biehn. Kyle arrives as in the first one. Lands. All the shot recreation's pretty good. The way he lands and everything like that is exactly the same as the first one. So it's all the same beats, but just as sort of the police arrive, and just as like, he corners an officer, and it's a T-1000.
Yeah. So
we're immediately in something different. Well, we know from Griffith Park that it's like a different timeline, and obviously a T-1000 is there.
Yeah. Not Robert Patrick, but
not Robert Patrick. That kind of bothered me. I don't know. I don't know why it bothered me, but it bothered me. But there you go. but all the same things. Him stealing the sort of night vandals, and all that sort of thing. But he is arrested at one point, and one of the police officers will sort of come back later. Where do you go from there? It's just a big chase sequence from now, isn't it? The T-1000 emerges from a mirror, kills one of the cops. The other one gets saved, and then basically an armored truck comes in, and it's Sarah Connor. Come with me if you want to live.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a big chase from now.
Yeah, he gets in the T-1000 throws a bit of its piece of itself on the car to track him.
Yeah, I quite like that. The idea that it tracks like that. That was all right. But they managed to get the exposition out fairly well as well. So Kyle doesn't know he's John's father, of course.
Yeah. And instantly, while he's out for the count, Arnie's there, like sort of basically saying, like, well, John Connor's here, right? Time to get mating.
Yes. Yeah. But he does find out it's a different timeline. The Terminator came back earlier. We'll get more of that later. Sarah knows about Skynet. She knows about, his role, that he's going to turn up. He doesn't know about his role, per se. And obviously that the Terminator that he was coming back to sort of protect her from has already been sort of taken out of the equation. This version of Arnie is Pops, and has basically brought her up. We'll find out later on timeline and everything, but I think we can say now he's had her for about 11 years. Given she was 19 in the first film, he's had her since she was about 8, something like that, looking after her. Something like that. And they head straight to this factory. This is a trap. They've been planning this for years.
Yeah.
But I don't think I picked that up first time, so I wondered what factory has that kind of like roof. A ceiling of acid,
Yeah.
But there you go.
Well, they've set it up there because they're planning on the whole thing is set up to kind of like lower the T-1000, isn't it? So they've set the whole thing like this is how we're going to kill it. This is how we're going to kill like the original Terminator, and this is how we're going to kill this new T-1000. How they know this T-1000 will be there, I don't know, but I guess Arnold, the new Terminator, must have told them because this is like
we're being quite complimentary to start with. Remember, we did start by saying this film's spectacularly stupid, and nothing is ever established to explain it at all.
Yeah.
I can understand if the timeline, if Sarah has such detailed knowledge of the original timeline and the Terminator comes back earlier, then she might be able to preempt the T-800 turning up. The T-1000 wasn't in that original loop of time. So I've absolutely no idea how she would know that. Now, in Dark Fate, there's some suggestion that Arnie can sense when they arrive and stuff like that, but none of that is in this film. That is a later film in a different continuity. So I think it's just the T-1000, look, fans.
Well, this was going to be like the first one of a trilogy. So, I guess things were probably to be explained or make more sense had it gone on. I'm being generous here, but, I'm just saying, because we still don't know, like, who actually sent Arnold. So, in the first place, do we? So,
1973, no. Well, we assume Skynet, but we don't know from when and why. And
yeah.
Because he went to protect her from a T-1000, she was told. Well, the T-1000s were experimental. I don't know. Let it go, I suppose. So there's a bit there. There's a bit of a fight with the T-1000. They've already taken out the they've got the original T-800 with them as well. So they take the ship out of it, and basically they melt it under acid.
Well, yeah, but first they have the T-1000 gets there, and it does a thing where he sort of throws a bit of its liquid metal and then reanimates the Arnold one.
Yeah.
Which is an idea. I didn't know thought of that, but how that worked.
It kind of comes back sort of later in the film as well. Sort of. Not quite the same. I thought it was okay. But obviously, when they take that down. They take down the T-1000 pretends to be Kyle, and she has to choose which one she's going to shoot. Gets it right, thankfully.
Phew.
Reminds me of an episode of Masters of the Universe. That.
It's a little bit He-Man.
Yeah. Well, the way they ended up deciding which one was He-Man is they just put chains around him, and only one of them's more powerful enough to get out of them.
One's really strong.
Yeah. That's at least 35 years ago I saw that.
He has the power.
I only saw it once, so that's weird. Anyway.
Yes.
The T-1000's melted under a load of acid, nearly gets at Sarah. The melting effect's quite nice. Eventually, Arnold has to hold it under the stream of acid, that is. And, his arm gets melted down sort of T2 style where the skin was ripped off, that sort of look. The T-1000 is dead, and we find that there is they've built a time displacement area there. They needed the chip from the T-800 that was sent back at the start to power it, which is convenient in storytelling terms.
Yes.
And so this is like where they're having basically want to go ahead to. Is it basically Terminator 2 to get rid of that T-1000?
No.
Am I right? Okay.
It's well, first off, Sarah, we get a bit more backstory. You get Kyle explaining how great her son is, and you get, he's just so great. And then you get Sarah explaining to Kyle
what a guy
that the Guardian was sent back in 1973. That's the Terminator's arrival. That's caused some sort of fractured timeline. Arnold seems incredibly well informed on it, and how there's divergences where you can see both timelines and all that sort of thing. He believes that it's now. He's been told in his memory that it's 2017. They were going to go to 97, so they were clearly going to go there to try to stop the original Judgment Day. It's nothing to do with it's a couple of years after T2. But Kyle convinces them to go to 2017 instead, because that's when they now believe it's going to be. But just because of his memory. And she says, "What are you going to do?" And he holds up this metal arm and says, "It's going to take a while for this to heal." And I'm thinking, heal? The fucking elbow upwards will stink within days. You're going to rot. That's not going to heal. But it does, obviously. But it is where Arnie says, "Yeah, we just go to the future as quickly as possible." It's like, what? No one ever picked on that line to say this is bollocks.
Like, it even doesn't make sense, because even if they're arguing no, we have to go to this point in the future, it was like, well, how about time machine? We just do both.
They can only use it once.
Oh yeah, that was it.
But even then, if you get there in 97, just sit off for 20 years, have some fun, relax.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not. There's no hurry on this. Perhaps she wants to go now because she looks better in the nude than she will if she waits 20 years. I've got to get my kit off in front of him. I'll just do it now while I'm still in my 20s. So they strip off and have a bit of a cuddle. What else?
Sexy time.
They go straight to 2017. This made me laugh like fuck. Because two things. Firstly, they're dropped in the middle of a highway. And you're thinking, can't they be any more specific than that? And secondly, Arnie's supposed to be there waiting for them, and he's stuck in traffic.
Jesus.
Yeah, what was all that about? Stuck in traffic.
He stood there looking at under a bridge, looking at the bottom of.
I know, he's in his car, looking up at the bridge, going oh fuck it, damn traffic. He could have gone we established in T2 he can just stand for endless amounts of time. He could have just been stood there 2 days before and waited. What's this about? He's late, so they're arrested. How can you be late when you had 33 years and knew exactly where you were going and don't require rest?
Oh dear.
This is mental.
It's crazy.
So yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Silly.
What next? They take the hospital, aren't they?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so they try to escape, don't they? Is this where they bump into John?
Well, first off, they're being treated. Sarah doesn't ever want any local anaesthetics or anything, so she's having her shoulder stapled. But what I love is the doctor is using a tablet while he's doing it, like casually just fucking social media or whatever. I don't see that somehow.
I think that's a bit silly, quite frankly.
While they're there, John turns up.
Even if it shows like the permeation of a system and all the rest of it, but still, I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, we're starting to get links to this Genisys thing, and John's getting flashbacks of seeing himself open it on like his 13th birthday or something.
And saying like Genisys is Skynet.
It's an and saying Genisys is Skynet. So it's basically an operating system that if it launches, it will be absolutely everywhere.
Everywhere.
And Skynet will therefore be everywhere, and Judgment Day will happen. Simple as that. What I loved is they said as well, 2017 is Judgment Day. Didn't say when.
No.
Right? At no point in that memory did the young one say August the 4th. He just said 2017.
Yeah, that's quite any point during this year.
That's a bit vague.
That could be like bang on. That could be like,
January 1st. No.
On New Year's Eve.
Date.
Yeah.
Just as the clock turns. And...
Well, yeah, it could have been like 2nd of January, and you've just gone, put me there in the Easter. That's it. Anyway. This is where the film's been alright to this point. It starts fucking struggling from now. This whole thing with John. What did we make of this?
I think that sums it up.
The thing is, everyone groaned in the trailer because they showed it in the trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been a bit more effective if you didn't know it happened.
I think when Charlie groaned like that, it's pretty much the comedian sigh.
It's something you kind of saw coming anyway. And it's just like, oh, look, he's a more advanced Terminator. Correct.
That's the trouble.
Else is on?
Okay, that's the trouble. I just it's this escalating of the threat all the time and trying to give new, you know what I mean, new threats every time. And I don't really, because I mean, John establishes, how did you get here the same way you did? So it's like, well, you've time traveled from there. That's fine. We're okay with that. But he turns up in a suit, not looking remotely the part for this character anyway. And as soon as they get out into the sort of parking lot, Arnie arrives, because I like the way he arrives with a massive great teddy bear to the hospital, because he was late. I hope he wasn't late because he was buying that fucking teddy bear.
It's a bit like the roses, isn't it? But
a little bit.
It's quite nice. Just a bit incongruous, isn't it? It's just this big guy not smiling and all the rest of it carried a big teddy bear. But he comes out and shoots John, and John is obviously some kind of...
Yeah, shoots him with a shotgun and there's no blood at all or anything. He instantly goes like, no!
Yeah, no blood, but then it's a peak. Well, there wouldn't be anyway.
Yeah, true.
The only time we see blood is when the sort of black goo sort of goes back in nanotech style. Mm-hmm. But when he's lying there before that, there's nothing.
No, you don't see anything else. Otherwise, it's very clean, isn't it?
Carl runs over to him and is like,
because he's a killer.
But he runs over to the like corpse on the floor as he thinks it is, and Arnie doesn't warn him.
Yeah. You
think Arnie would say stay away? That's not John
but
Connor.
He doesn't. I think that scene's quite tense though, apart from that scene. So where he does very intense, he goes, because it's a killer, and there's a very intense delivery of that line.
It's okay. This bit's all a bit histrionic. The whole idea of the character is really a bit histrionic. He's immediately sort of trying to. He's already trying to recruit them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's quite
melodramatic.
melodramatic.
Together with Royal Skynet.
That's what it felt like. It felt sub Star Wars. But there you go. So it gets explained that basically he was made more. He wasn't affected. He was made more, just as he was. Yeah. So he's been transformed. So the idea is he's back trying to make sure Cyberdyne do get Skynet, and he's there to secure Judgment Day basically.
And they explained the same thing that Endgame did with the like, well, I can kill you, fine, because it doesn't matter because we're living, it doesn't matter because we're living in like this time period now. So, in the answer of like killing his parents, it doesn't matter.
No, yeah. They try and explain that, and again, it's the film trying to like make us think it's thought about it, and it's like it doesn't actually matter at all.
Yeah.
But as long as he secures the future, it doesn't actually matter. And in fairness, if they don't have him, he still will have survived that loop of time. And in the new loop of time, he doesn't need to be there because he wouldn't want to take down Skynet anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Just ends up in a fight. I start getting bored with the film by now. We have a fight that ends with an MRI machine.
Yeah, death by MRI.
Death by MRI.
Obviously not technically.
Nice little
death by
effect.
MRI,
He's
but...
just trying to walk away from it, and it's sort of like little sort of almost echoes of him are sort of staying in the air as bits he's shedding part of his like nanotech or whatever.
Looks like kind of like iron filings.
It does.
The iron filings.
Yeah, when you were a kid playing with magnets and science class.
We're about to find out how little
iron filings.
This I don't know how long this film is. I've got to look it up.
Burner.
This film is over 2 hours.
6 minutes.
How? There's not much to this because actually
it takes him a long time to get rid of all his iron filings.
Well, we go straight to the safe house after this. They go like.
I mean, it cracks along. It has this really a quick pace, you know, in its favour. But it's 2 hours 6 minutes long, so I kind of, you know, I can't balance the two.
Well, they head off to. I'm looking it up. Actually, it's Marin County.
Yeah.
Marin County is where Lucasfilm is. Yeah.
Of course, it is. Yes.
So it's kind of near San Francisco, and they're basically preparing to destroy Genisys, but that's what he's been doing in the years in between. Yeah.
We have forgotten to talk about the cop. What's his face?
Oh, J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, yeah.
Oh, yes, we can
J.K.
discuss
Simmons
him.
turns up, recognises Arnie and other things. Or he looks at Arnie a bit funny. And they're asking if he has been drinking. So I don't know if he's had a drink problem. But he's basically the cop from 1984 that Kyle saved.
Yeah. He's now become a bit of a conspiracy theory in the eyes of everyone. He's like thinking, like, trying to piece everything together. And everyone thinks he's crazy.
Yeah, a little bit wasted, although I like him a lot.
Me too.
Whether he would have turned up in sequels, I don't know. For
some reason, I can't put my finger on it, but for some reason he kind of takes me back to like the first two Terminators, and he seems like in that kind of like.
It's a bit old Bowen.
Yeah, in that kind of like, you know, what's it like, sort of wool jacket and a bit sort of like dishevelled, but you know that kind of cop type character. I can just see him. In like the Terminator.
He's totally wasted though. I mean, I think he helps him a bit, but they could have done a lot more with him. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, pretty much. I liked the character.
Yeah, I did.
He's kind of. I always like the underdog.
Yeah, I guess so. But we're straight into like prep for the final bit now.
Yeah,
you rattle through it.
Well, yeah,
I suppose
they tool up, don't they?
Well, you had to introduce the future. You had to introduce 1984. You had to subvert 1984. You had to get them to 2017. I suppose they've crammed a fair bit.
You're sort of jumping through hoops to do these various things, aren't you?
Yeah, they've established
that. Not much to it.
They established that Carl Reese has got the same identity as a kid. So obviously, because they take the bring it as an ID and that. So they're trying to figure out what's going on there. And meanwhile, they're at the hideout with all the guns and that, and they're tooling up, and Arnie and Carl Reese have a moment. The second old but not obsolete. Yeah,
it wasn't that good a joke the first time.
I think here it's meant to be a bit of a breaking bread kind of thing, because he hasn't trust Arnie till now. So
I love that. Again, the other bit that was really dumb in the film, where he shoots John Connor, I think Kyle goes off then, doesn't he? And says, they're Terminators. That's what they do. They infiltrate. And it's like,
Yeah.
just our reaction is exactly the audience's like, well, he's playing a fucking long game then, isn't he? Bringing you up for 11 fucking years, helping you get to the future, then getting there, then scuppering you. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, I think it kind of works, unless his program was to terminate John Connor. But yeah, I get it. It's a bit...
But yeah, we know that if he terminates an 11-year-old Sarah Connor, there is no John Connor.
Yeah,
so
true.
It is just dumb as shit. It didn't stand out as much this time, probably because I've seen the film before. You know what I mean? But when I first saw it, things like that, coming from a guy who doesn't play that smart generally, I was like, oh, fucking hell, this is dreadful. It's a little thin for everything they've put in it, but it's been okay so far. But the whole tooling up thing, there's some nice little touches, and I think that probably speaks to the idea it's a TV director. Them sort of being a little bit competitive when they're sort of doing that. That's a little TV touch, little close-in thing. So that's all right. I think there he finds out he found out he was the father of John in the parking lot, didn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah. Where do we go from there?
And then
it is worth mentioning as well. There is like a redo of the picture that was taken at the gas station at the end of this film. It's the same picture with Emilia Clarke sort of photoshopped into it. Doesn't quite look right, but it doesn't look terrible either. I've seen far worse, and it is effectively the same photo. I think it's a Photoshop job. I don't think they've restaged the photo. I don't think so. I might have misremembered that.
I couldn't honestly tell, but it's on so brief. I can't,
Yeah, it's only fleeting, isn't it?
We see it a couple of times. And from here, you're going to have to help me, because I think I remember the bridge stuff, but apart from that, I struggle with this.
John Connor shows up because he knows where they are.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they rip off the Dark Knight, don't they? And then the Lost World.
There's also kind of nods, and there's a few nods to Superman along the way as well, and it's all a bit, rip off, as you say, Charlie.
John Connor shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says like the most cliche thing with like a big rocket launcher, and says like, something this. I can't remember what it is, but I just remember like
it is a similar this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's as bad as that. But, do they find out how he tracked them, or what happened, or?
I think because he. I think it was just
Super T9000. I don't know.
Because he's John Connor, he knows him.
This is the bit that was used in the trailer when he sort of got out of there and reformed in daylight.
Oh yeah, which again was a bit kind of the T1000 walking out of the truck fire.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. It's that sort of thing. Yeah, it's the same sort of. They've done it in most of the films actually.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's a chase scene. It's with the school bus, isn't it?
Mm.
And this is where Arnie says, "Nice to see you." When he crashes like face first into a car.
When you said the Dark Knight, you meant the flipping of the bus, did you?
No, absolutely, yeah.
The flipping of the bus. The Dark Knight comes out of the comparison very strongly, because the Dark Knight did it for real and it looked good.
Yeah.
It doesn't look so good here. It's not terrible.
No.
As I watched through the film, a surprising amount of it's pretty competent. But there was that. Arnie flying with his head through that sort of window was quite funny as well. Was that nice to see you? Did he that the second time he said it?
Yeah, with the cop car.
The cop car when his head comes smashing through the window. That was pretty cool.
Because he says, "Nice to see you. Get out."
Yes.
Get out.
Yeah, that was quite good.
Yeah, that was all right.
And they've got these like sort of magnet kind of fisting because
they said we need a big MRI, and he said we haven't got one of those.
No, thank you.
And then he said, "Give us a minute," or he said, "Not maybe, possibly," or something like that. He goes off and starts like A-teaming it, hacking things down. Yeah, and sort of building something. They've obviously used that, but again, I started checking out in the last few minutes.
They get into a helicopter somehow.
Well, that's later on. So obviously, there's they managed to escape the bridge. He sends the John Connor down with the school bus.
Oh yeah.
And then they're at the police station. And then they have that. So they have this is while they're having the present day Carl Reese trying to see if he recognises future Carl Reese.
Yeah, that's a bit.
That kind of thing kind of blended in with the last bit to me.
Yeah.
I forgot about the whole thing. Yeah.
I did forget that, yeah. And it's like, he kind of looks like Dad, and then you see Dad, and it's like,
go, nope.
not even.
Yeah.
That is absolutely up there with that flaw of saying the baby looks like its father, and then you look at the baby and it just looks like generic fucking baby.
Generic baby.
They write it into dialogue before they do the casting. And then they just cast generic man in his, like, I don't know, early 40s or whatever. It looks nothing like him.
I almost think that they kind of knew that, because I think the guy playing the dad kind of has a look at that kind of semi-confused face to just say, "Really? What?"
Yeah.
He almost looks offended by the fact that
there's this running thing about like us drawing a straight line on the hand.
Yeah.
As well, and she says that to him as well.
Yeah. And
it was said to her by Arnie, and it was said to Kyle by John, and things like that. And it's, I don't know, it's trying to build the sort of some new ideas for the series, I suppose, or some new little buzz points to like refer to. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
None of this stuff with younger Carl works until right at the end. Right at the end, where he can tell his younger self, that sort of works. But trying to seed him into bits of the story, it's I don't know. I've got a bit of a 12 Monkeys vibe from it actually. But it worked way better. It worked way better in that when he saw his younger self, or he saw his older self as a young boy.
I wonder if that was a bit of a 12 Monkeys nod.
12 Monkeys, the film. I mean, I haven't seen the TV series. Anyone listening who hasn't seen it, because again, we forget the relative age of listeners and stuff like that. 12 Monkeys is a 1996 film with Bruce Willis.
Such a good film.
Madeline Stowe.
Terry Gilliam directed it.
A young Brad Pitt. Directed by, sorry?
Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam, amazing film. Check it out.
Well. It's really, really good. It's really good. And it is about someone coming back from the past to learn about a virus which wiped out most of humanity. But he's not being sent back to stop it. He's being sent back to learn about it. But he keeps having visions of this guy being shot at an airport. But every time you see the vision changes. It's like the subjectiveness of memory. It's a brilliant film. I've not seen it in 20 years. I've got to see it again. It's really good. But this idea of different versions or different ages of the same character, you know, having been in the same space at the same time and things like that. But of course, it's only in this loop of time because it was post-apocalyptic when that version of Carl was that age. So where do we go from here? We keep getting references to the countdown as well to Genisys. When they arrived, it was a day or two, and we see it when it's like, I don't know, a few hours and things like that. Doesn't John change this? Doesn't he actually get the mechanism quicker?
Yeah, he starts to sort of up the thing because he's obviously he's got involved with Genisys because it's Dyson's son, isn't it?
And Dyson himself.
I fucking groaned at that. I did groan at that because
the
main man at Cyberdyne now is Danny Dyson, and I thought
not Danny Dyer.
We saw them refer to Danny as their kid in the second one. So it's the son of Miles has carried on and completed his work just 20 years later.
He hasn't learned.
It's kind of... Yeah, well, there is that. There is that, I suppose. But no, he won't. No, because T2 didn't happen.
No, hold on a minute. The argument is invalid.
T2 didn't happen. So why is it not his dad? Because his dad would probably be still working age at that point. But also, it's just... I don't know. It's almost like a Back to the Future joke. You know,
messy,
where Mayor Goldie.
Yeah, and it's always Statler doing the horses, then the cars, and everybody fits into the same thing. Sorry, Charlie.
No, according to IMDb, because Wikipedia, because I didn't pick this up in the film. Miles is in it, and Miles is the CDO, and Danny is the president.
That's not so bad then. That's not so bad. It just seemed like that name checking.
Yeah, because apparently Courtney B. Vance plays Miles Dyson, but I can't for the life of me remember where he was in the film.
Nor do I. I don't at all. But there you go. And I would recognise that actor as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing him at all. Okay, whatever. It's it doesn't really matter, but it just seemed like another thing in a film that wasn't hardly impressing me. But actually, it's not so bad. If his son might well go into the same sort of thing and be at the same company, that's not that rare. Okay. Where do we go from there, folks?
So basically there's the John Connor Terminator shows up and tries to kill everyone. And there's basically sort of a police station. Yeah. And so Connor gets young Carl Reese out there, and that's where you have the sort of, remember in a straight line. And what else? Yeah, so then they all sort of meet up at a helicopter.
Right.
And that's where you get, so they're on the way to Genisys headquarters.
So basically Cyberdyne.
Yes.
Yeah. So they nick a helicopter from the police station because J.K. Simmons helps them.
Yeah.
And then John Connor nicks a helicopter as well. And it turns into Airwolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. It's like a parking lot full of helicopters. Just nav your own.
Somewhere.
And there's I thought it was quite good, if implausible, where he kind of pulled it off sideways. Or misses.
That's totally implausible. I've tried it.
and then kind of let it fall down, and then it's not plausible in the slightest, but it looked quite good on the film. And then there's the chair, and then Arnie does the "I'll be back."
Yeah, and jumps out of a helicopter.
So we're at the stage of the film where he's going to start getting like badly damaged.
Yeah, because that was another big trailer moment, wasn't it?
It was. They threw all this stuff in the trailer. The trailer, you knew the film was in trouble, and more importantly, you knew the film wasn't very good. Trailers are cut by outside companies, but I think they must get a brief, because it's noticeable in bad films they'll give away something really, really major.
Yeah.
And it does seem that like last gasp, go at it. So I don't know. The last gasp go at getting an audience in. By saying, well, like, look what we show and all that sort of thing. But there you go. What after that then?
Well, basically, sort of they break into Cyberdyne, and basically you have the whole thing. They try and set up to blow it up. You have hologram Matt Smith try and stop him.
Yeah.
And you got Jai Courtney trying to shoot a hologram, and you have the kind of John manages to sort of pin down Sarah Connor, but she can't reach the detonator, so she orders Arnie to do it, but he can't do it because it'll terminate her, and he can't override his objective. So they try to get Carl Reese to do it, and then there's just a fight, really. That's it.
Brilliant.
He's sort of reaching the end of it now, because it's pretty much just like, it's just like, it's the end.
Oh, just a fucking action and shit.
Yeah, because John destroys the detonator, and then
This has happened in every film from 3 hours. There's been a section of the film I can't remember. I watched this morning.
Yeah.
I watched it this morning, and I cannot remember any of the final battle.
Well, there's not much to remember, really. I mean,
except when Arnie comes back in, like, undamaged again, because, like, the T-1000 has fucking upgraded him or something.
Well, they get into the the central sort of time machine thing.
Yeah,
the power source.
They trap him in the field. Yeah. Because they say about 5 times in the film, the field generator is working, but nothing else.
Yeah.
So then he just gets stuck in that and explodes.
It's a good job there's no Genisys working in that place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then...
Well, no janitors, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly if it was Hong Kong Phooey, because he'd kick the shit out of all of them, no trouble.
And one super guy.
And then Arnie becomes a T-1000.
That's it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That makes sense. Anything else anyone wants to say about any of this stuff? It's like I had lost it by then. I can't honestly tell you what happened.
I enjoyed it at the time, but now it's just like, what happened? And then there was the stupid mid-credits.
Oh, I haven't done the credits yet. We do get they go to Carl Reese's home.
Yeah.
And born young Kyle. And Sarah, they're going to stay together, it seems. And then the post-credit scene is there's still, it always reminds me of the Red Dwarf episode Polymorph, where it just turns around and there's a second one.
It's a little bit like that.
It's like we desperately want a sequel, which they never got. So the system core is still there. It's not deployed to anything, so it not an immediate worry, but yeah. And there's a yawn for good measure.
Well, it is like 10:30. Quite
it's early for us.
It's not too bad.
It really is.
Say we've gone past midnight in the past.
And then they play the Terminator theme.
Then they play the Terminator theme. I'm going to do final thoughts really, really quickly because I haven't got a lot to say at all. I think it's I just think it's really it's not very well cast. The dialogue's really bad, and some of the plot points are really, really stupid. It's got a bit more energy than Salvation. It's got a bit more fun to it than Salvation, and I could see it was trying to do something. It just didn't do it very well. I could argue it's the worst in the series, but I had such a poor time with Salvation. I think I can't just look at it and go, well, Christian Bale, it's got to be a serious, better film. It was really, really poor. But it is one of the weaker entries in the series. I didn't have a great time with it, and I checked out about 2/3 of the way through. That's it from me, really.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed myself, even though it isn't that moment, especially the last act. As I said, it's it does suffer from last act ightness, in which you just sort of go, yeah, just stuff happens and whatever. But for the most part, I think I generally enjoy it, even though it is dumb as fuck. I kind of just go with it. I kind of just think, yeah, it's whatever. It's not boring. It's basically Die Another Day of the Terminator series.
Yeah, it is.
I don't say it was that bad, but no, it's one of those films like try to enjoy it.
Oh, this is definitely
as bad as unfortunately.
This is totally
No.
Get to the future as soon as possible.
I don't think it's the absolute
This is as bad as Die
lowest
Another Day.
form.
It's not as iconic.
Not as iconic, not as legendary. No.
Go on, Becca, sorry.
No, definitely that's it. So I tried really hard, although I'd prefer it to the previous film because it does feel more like a Terminator movie. I think this is going to sound very shallow, but I think the best thing this film has going for it is just like the look of it. I think it has a kind of very polished look to it. But yeah, I think it was just the kind of the work. I don't know. I did want to enjoy it. I didn't see it upon release. But yeah, I just struggled. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, Chris.
Just it's late and it's tired and it's just like
I don't care. Charlie, I haven't done yours yet. I don't really care.
No, Charlie, go for it.
I went to. Sorry.
This series is a mess, and yeah, this kind of follows on. Yeah, I mean, when I watched it today, I enjoyed it. It was terrible, but I enjoyed it, and that's all I can say. And I can't really say that about Salvation or Terminator 3 or really Dark Fate for that matter. But it's not really.
It's not boring, is it? You just kind of go.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's not boring per se, and it's just not very good. But neither are many of the other ones either. So it's just like, just let it fucking die.
Yeah. We're only defending this relatively. Yeah. It's really shit.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
It does bother you when it's a series that started with the Terminator and T2. We may have been a bit tougher on T2, but smart, superior sci-fi, both of them.
Yeah, so whenever you do, the top, top 20 most influential sci-fi movies, chances are you will see Terminator 1 and 2.
And then you watch
in the top
this.
5,
Yeah, and then you watch this, and it's logic-wise, it's up there with Gustav Graves getting knighted in fucking 12 months.
I suppose it belongs to the same franchise. Like, really?
And getting shorter and fatter. Or taller and fatter, sorry.
But I do think this is kind of symptomatic of action films in general, and a lot of franchise films anyway at the moment. I'm just bored to shit with all of it. I mean, Marvel managed to catch my attention for most of it, and now that's ended for the moment. I'm kind of there on that. I didn't give a fuck about the Fast and the Furious, or anything like that, and just everything that's kind of coming out, especially action films, which used to be the thing. They're just kind of warmed up shit.
I can't.
And then
sorry, go on. Sorry.
And then you watch a film called, I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if it's even out in general release. A film called Monos, which is a film is in Colombia about child guerrilla soldiers. And it's amazing, and it's really kind of vicious and interesting and thoughtful, and then you get these. Because I wrote on Twitter earlier that the combined cost of these films is like $820 million.
Well, putting that into context, the first two only come to about 106.
Exactly.
So if you knock that off, it's like 720 or something for the next four.
Yeah.
And when you think this one is not low budget, you couldn't characterize it as that, but it's not as big budget as the rest. You are averaging like 180, 190 million a time. Without a single idea. I mean, I argued strongly about not seeing the future, but if you're going to go to the future, go there with some ideas as what you want to do with it, rather than just show us all the characters, the T-800 and good night folks. So that's the problem.
It's probably just made by a committee, essentially. It's just made by a bunch of people who, right, we need to make money, we need to sort of make a film, right, okay, what ideas do we have? And someone will have an idea, and then some will object to an idea, so they'll have different ideas, and they'll infuse that into that, and what you have is it will just whittle down into this complete mishmash that doesn't really have anything to it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these big Hollywood productions now. It's just a lot of people having their input, and you whittle down what was actually good about any idea in the first place, or it's weakened because everyone has too much input.
It's not something I want to knock Hollywood. It produces more than enough to justify its own existence, but I think it's difficult when you get this many entries in and the original creators are gone. It does then become purely studio product, and you can almost see them working through the beats of an action film. It's why the last third of action films bore me, because their brains switch off and they throw a load of action on the screen. But it's just another part of the film to them. There's no artistry to the action. There's no thought put into it half the time. It's just, we're going to have an action scene there, and that's it. Compare that to someone like Macquarie, who scopes out exactly where it's going to be and works out the beats of it and everything. None of that. They just went, let's do something on the bridge. So I don't think this is necessarily completely emblematic of Hollywood, but it's like some of the worst facets of it, certainly. Chris, have you got anything to add? Final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, I've said my final thoughts already, but it's, I mean, we all know it's crap. I enjoy it, but I enjoy this one because it's kind of just batshit and kind of flows to degree. So it's. Is
this the opposite problem to what you had last week? Do you enjoy it because you don't know very much about it and you can't see all its flaws?
Well, I mean, it's still nice to know stuff, though, isn't it?
It is nice to know stuff. I think that could be a catchphrase that would define a generation. It's nice to know stuff.
To know you, nice.
In fact, if we ever campaign for public office, that's what we're going to use.
Goldie for mayor, it's nice to know stuff.
President, do you expect us to talk? It's nice to know stuff. Fits on a hat, not a red one, though.
To know you, nice. No, a blue one. Or a green one.
Factus.
Or a multicoloured one.
Factus.
Factoid.
Yeah.
Give me facts.
Give you cold hard facts. Fun fact number 1: 3 of this film's actors have appeared in comic movies. Jai Courtney was obviously in the Suicide Squad. Arnie was I Still See You, Mr. Freeze, and J.K. Simmons was in Spider-Man. Fun fact number 2:
yeah, he was also Commissioner Gordon in Justice League.
Yes, well done. I forgot about that.
A full 4 minutes of screen time. Bit like
Very important.
Yeah.
It's one of the few Terminator movies, maybe the only one, where we don't see Arnie's iteration of Arnie's character doesn't get killed or self-terminates. Indeed, previously Terminators have died with terminated, or you see that line written on the screen. They don't actually say it here, they just kind of describe what it is in quite an elaborate way. Fun fact number 3, as I mentioned earlier, Emilia Clarke and director Alan Taylor previously worked together on Game of Thrones, also in which Emilia Clarke's on-screen husband is played by Jason Momoa, who also took over Arnie's role as Conan the Barbarian in the 2011 version. Fun fact number 4, this film marks the second time director Alan Taylor has also worked with Doctor Who, actor obviously Matt Smith, obviously directed Christopher Eccleston, as I mentioned previously. Fun fact number 5, this film is quite an international cast. They all have American accents, but a handful of them are only American. Obviously, you've got Arnie. Emilia Clarke and Matt Smith, both British. Jason Clarke and Jai Courtney are Australian. Yi Byung-hun, whose name I still can't pronounce, is obviously South Korean. And Dayo Akane, who plays Dyson's son, is Nigerian. So yeah, a really international cast there. That's my 5 fun facts about this interminable film.
That's fun, folks.
Just like bread.
What? Just like
facts about bread,
just
unfortunately.
like bread.
Well,
Other than it starred that bloke from Goodnight Sweetheart.
It's time for 6 Degrees of Separation.
Right.
Take it away, Charlie.
I could have done being really lazy because Game of Thrones, you could have done it really easily. And Doctor Who as well, with Matt Smith. So I decided to try and at least go down a different route.
I remember that Game of Thrones episode where they all took turns on Lilo Lil.
She's a tat.
Go on.
Anyway, so right, J.K. Simmons was in a film called Extreme Measures with Hugh Grant.
I've seen that. Hugh Grant and Gene Hackman. No, is it Gene Hackman?
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, he's a doctor in it.
Yes, is it where they're killing homeless people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all right. It's around the yeah. It's around the same time as he got his dick sucked over there. Yeah. And not during any of the scenes of the film. Don't worry about that.
Oh, phew.
Excuse me, we're trying to solve a case and all I can hear is her slurping.
We just...
Oh, what a palaver. If a man wants to get his dick sucked, he should be allowed to.
Yeah.
So, So Hugh Grant was in Bridget Jones's Diary, and also in Bridget Jones's Diary was Honor Blackman, who, as you all know, was Pussyclaw in Goldfinger. And she was in Goldfinger with Gert Frobe, who was also in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang with Kenneth Waller. And Kenneth Waller was the granddad in Bread.
Peace off.
Well done.
That's what he said, by the way. That is quite impressive.
See, I'm going to miss this as well. I can't wait to do that again.
Well, just wait till we try and link Beneath the Planet of the Apes to Family Fortunes.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That's going to be harder with this game show host, isn't it?
Yeah,
mind you,
that's...
Bob Monkhurst was in like some Carry On films and that. So as long as
he was in
Bob,
most of them, wasn't he?
he was in some of them. He won in most
quite
of them.
prolific career.
Didn't Family Fortunes have like a different name in
Family
America?
Feud.
Family Feud.
So you could link Family Fortunes with like Happy Gilmore because of Bob Barker.
You can. How about that?
Oh, was it Bob
Can be done.
Barker? Was it Bob Barker who did Family Feud?
I don't know. I'm going Bob.
No, he did Price is Right. Sorry.
Anyway.
In which case, no, you can't.
There you go. It was hosted by Richard Dawson, who was in Running Man with Arnie.
Yeah.
There we are.
I remember that. I'll have to, we might do soaps or something anyway. It's not definitely game shows. We'll figure it out, but we'll do something else.
Classic TV shows from the past.
Every week, Charlie will be having to link major films to Ken Barlow. Yeah.
Wasn't
From Planet of the Apes to Ken Barlow in 6 Easy Steps.
Yeah.
He's been in it for
Ken Barlow's son was
Linus.
Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. Linus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there
I
you
think
go.
it can be done.
Well, that not proved it. Anyway, we've got a couple of questions. The first one is from Ken. He asks, he just asked if any of us skipped this in the cinema. He's just saying he's not seen it from start to finish.
I didn't see it either. I only saw it especially for the show.
I didn't see it in the cinema.
I did.
I saw it twice in the cinema.
Right. So Chris and I saw it. Chris saw it twice. Charlie never watched it at all.
Always one.
And Becca watched it later. So we basically, between the four of us, we bought 3 tickets.
I think before Dark Fate, T3 was the last one I saw in the cinema.
Right. I think I've seen them.
They pulled like Fate Terminator 2 was the last one though. So.
I mean, with the exception of the first one, because of my age, I've seen them all.
Yeah, but you re-saw Terminator 2, didn't you? You saw like a recent showing.
Becca did.
Yeah, I saw it on the when they reissued 1 and 2 back to back.
Yeah.
Especially.
The second question I've already answered. Because Lloyd Nance has asked, how do Dave, Chris and Charlie stay so handsome? And I've just replied with a picture of a plate of bourbon biscuits. So that's my secret.
I want some bourbons now. That's really nice.
Style tips.
We see also the news is speaking of sequel reboots, what have you. Bill Murray is confirmed to be in the new Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
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 I have
matron.
Oh yes.
It's going to be in it, is he? Oh. In it. Oh. Do they want him? I have to say, Ghostbusters did not follow me into adulthood. I might see it, but I'm not really that bothered, to be honest.
You ain't afraid of no ghost.
I like the original one, but the second one was just...
That's what made me laugh with the 2016 one, when everyone replied like it had been all home runs to date, and the second one's really bad.
Yeah.
But there you go. Mind you, the 2016 one isn't good. But, yeah.
I think I like the first one. Because I saw it as a kid anyway, but I mean, outside of nostalgia, it's in that run that kind of Harold Ramis and Co had with stuff like Stripes and things like that.
I liked Stripes.
And all this kind of... It was kind of a less risque version of all those films like Animal House and things like that came around that time anyway. And it was only because it was obviously for a more general audience that they dropped it. But obviously it still had a ghost giving Dan Aykroyd a blowjob. So
that was cut out though, wasn't it?
Well, only on TV.
Wasn't it used in 2? Was it used in the second one? I'm not too sure now.
No, it's in the first one.
Is it definitely the first one?
Yeah.
Charlie knows his blowjobs, don't you?
So it must have been something that was been a longer scene that got cut down or something like that.
It's in the montage after they become famous. It's at the end of that montage.
Yeah.
I don't remember it at all.
But
I believe you, but I don't remember it.
Apparently, according to Dan Aykroyd, that actually did happen to him at some point. Like he said, there's one point where a ghost actually got into his bed
and sucked him off.
Well, no, it didn't suck him off, but it snuggled up to him. He was like, kind of go, what do I do? And he just sort of went, all right, well, okay, there you go.
Of all the scenes in the film to be cut down, I wouldn't want that one to be cut down. It just looks like a finish really fast.
Yeah, but where would it go? I mean, if they're supposed to be floating spirits.
Get into bed. Did it lift the covers up?
Did it have a hot water bottle?
Yeah. Did it insist on watching Howard's Way? I'm skeptical, I have to say.
Did it set off his teas made in the morning?
Yeah. We have made reference to what's coming next, only because what's coming next is something we've recorded already. But before we say that, social media, you can find me at the Pasty Kid 1976.
Yeah, you can find me at Simtronics on Twitter. You can also find all the podcasts on simtronics.co.uk. We're available on Spotify, Apple, and Google.
Charlie, where can we find you?
You can find me at Movie Drone.
And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Do you expect us to talk? If you want, you can drop us an email, expectustotalk@gmail.com.
Yeah. So, one to go, which we've already done, but you haven't heard it, folks, which means, Becca.
We'll reach the end of our Terminator series. As Do You Expect to Talk will return? As we already have done? This is where it gets a bit timey-wimey.
No, we return it.
We return again. But no, Do You Expect to Talk will return with our review of Terminator Dark Fate.